I made a workflow video a few years ago, and it is kind of out of date, and people can't even find that video, I guess, when they look for it. Maybe I can title this one better, but yeah, I'm gonna make an updated one because obviously my process has like kind of changed. Yeah, I'd like to go from start to finish, and maybe you'll find some use out of what I'm saying. So the core of any archiver or editor, you want to have a generally organized folder system. So to start, we have this template folder, which I use for every day's edit. An assets folder, which will contain anything relevant to that day's um, edit. So any like images, videos, whatever um, goes in there. Clips will be what gets exported to be uploaded. Project, this is just the template project folder. Source, this is where all the clips and the VODs and the chat goes. And then this is where the thumbnails go. So an example here is we have the April 8th folder. As you can see, there was a bunch of images and videos that were used, so they all go in here. Clips, so this is where the main sequence, which would be what would be the bits and banter video, go, and all the clips that would go in there as well. The project folder, this is just rename to the current days, and we have all our saves and everything. Source, so this is where the NL, the Kate, the Justin, the Corey, and the chat, this is where everything goes. And the thumbnails, this is where it all goes. I think this has a really horrible naming, but and this like script at the end here, basically when I run it, for any clip in this folder, it creates a separate thumbnail folder for it in here, and that's what I work off of. My archive folder is a temporary archive which holds any projects that I've already finished, and then they will get moved to the year into a yearly folder, archive folder in a separate drive. The main difference with the archives is the source folder gets removed, and as for the clips, we remove any clip except for the main compilation video. This is because I initially thought that I could just pull things from YouTube if I needed a clip or something, but then I found that YouTube has really bad compression, so I keep a source, and it's kind of a big file, but I think it for 2024 it amounted to about a terabyte, and that's like a whole year's worth. So I don't think it's too crazy to store at least these main folders, these main files. So if I need to pull a clip from the future, I have about a source quality video to pull from that's already been cut together. Intros, this is kind of a backwards thing, but these are the outros, but they're called intros. I can't even explain why, but this is just basically all the outro clips. Shared assets is where I keep some of things like placeholder assets, or random things that maybe I might use, audio, video things. And then thumbnail resources, this is where I keep things like the game logos that maybe will be reused, and most importantly, every few days I will refresh this folder against NL's channel and pull as many thumbnail faces and keep it as updated as possible. Like, this is probably as close to a complete collection of thumbnails as you'll get. So to start with, I'm gonna go over what the process would look like for a single day of editing a VOD. The first thing that I would do is hit this. Well, this would be at the start of the week, but I would hit this weekly start file gen, and that all that does is make copies of this template file and sets it to current day, and creates a folder for the current day plus the next 4 days of the week. So we got 13th and 17th. Obviously doesn't make sense because it's a Sunday for me, but yeah, it renames everything, and that's all it does. So that would be the first thing. Secondly, these would already be pinned in my quick access. So I would have my assets plus my assets. So if I have anything that pops up during the stream that I need to save preemptively or create and then add, I will just throw it in here, and I have a quick access to it. So next thing I would do is open up Twitch Link. This is the my program of choice for pulling off VODs. I'm sure there's like a billion different VOD pulling programs, but this is the one I choose to use. I just search up the channel, go here. I can grab my broadcast, hit download, throw that into the folder. I don't think I change anything, just anything settings wise. Just full VOD and max the source quality, I guess. And then the second thing I would do is pull up Twitch Downloader. This is what I use to pull and render the chat. All I do is enter in the VOD link, pull the whole thing with all the third-party emotes, hit download, download this, and then I would render it out. These are my settings. Now once this VOD is downloaded, I will go to the render, select the chat file, and then render it out. These are my settings. This is the dimensions, the font I use. The background is set to transparent. Rendering out everything. I think everything is pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that I have a note for is my outline scaling is set to 2, because I find at 1 it's a little too thin. And then for encoding here, the only thing that is important is to generate mask, and I will show you what that does later. For my system, it takes about an hour to render out the chat of a 5-hour VOD, and so it does slow down my computer when I render this out. So actually, I render it on my laptop while I start editing, just because I don't want to wait, right? So I'll just render it out on a separate system, which I don't think is necessary if you're not crunch for time. But yeah, that's how I've set it up. The other step of the process of editing is I have this Google Sheet that I take notes in. My notes have gotten a lot sloppier, and I end up watching a lot more of the VOD because I have more work responsibilities. So sometimes I have to like hit a meeting or something like that, and I can't watch a certain section. So I have to like mark off a big section of the VOD to rewatch. Because again, I do wanna. I stress that I watch the whole thing every time. But this makes it easier to figure out what I actually do need to rewatch. Like here, for example, I had a morning meeting, so I missed the beginning of the stream. So after everything's said and done with the stream, I will hit copy on this section of the notes, and this is our example. Uh, we have a fresh folder file, which I will go through the project, how this project file is structured, but I will just hit this VOD sequence, throw in my VOD file, and here we go. We have our VOD. This chat, this other sequences with the chat. I have a temporary file that I use while I'm editing for positioning and everything, but this will get replaced with the actual chat file or video file that gets rendered out. I will hit this marker box extension here, paste in my notes, and then hit import. And there we go. We have our import, which will tell us what sections to skip, what sections not to skip. I usually have like a little bit of like a 1-minute buffer on each end just to make sure I didn't miss something. And the one thing that I will note is sometimes this marker box extension doesn't work properly. Specifically, it has to do with the sequence frame rate. So I have it currently. It is at 5994 frames. I'm gonna switch it to 60, and that will usually fix it. If it doesn't work at 60, you might have to switch it to 5994 frames per second. That usually fixes it. I haven't had an issue beyond that. Once this is once this is all set up, then I can begin editing. I can position my I can make my chat a little smaller, set it to the side, and yeah, that's the whole intake process. Okay, so this is what a fully edited VOD looks like. One other extension that I will talk about is uh this syntax workflow thing. I think I found it on a YouTube video, but basically all it does is it takes your markers and set it to format for a YouTube chapter, which is just easier for me than having to. There's probably a better way and another way to export everything out, but again, I can just do it like this, and I have this method, and so it's fine. So now we have our main monitor here with our content. We have this text thing. I use this to transcribe the VOD sometimes if I need to look for a certain word. I don't usually use it, but it's there as a functionality. Markers just to search for certain markers, and then effects control is just to like change different effects things. I mean, if you have edited before, you know about this one. Obviously, I think this is core. Post notes, this is just another extension for taking notes of certain sequences. It's pretty useful. You can have like a to-do list, or like set timestamps or things like that. uh that's that. These two sequences are just while I'm editing. If I need to export something, I can just throw them into the here to export, like edit down a little bit and export it as a clip. If I just want to post something while I'm in the middle of editing. So here I have this like template sequence. It's mostly just like to store things that I use all the time. Here we have the outro with like the credits rolling and things like that. I have like a text thing with like a little bubble pop that I animated before. That's it. And then this is just normal. This is just a plain text template, which I think is a shadow or something like that on it, which is why, yeah, I just have it here. There's probably another way to do this, but again, I can just like drag this into my timeline and then just rename it, or just like edit it, right? Other things I have is this reference image. um so basically this is just for I have things like, just to make things look a little nicer aesthetically, I have a rounded corners and a rounded corners effect and a drop shadow, which you can't really see here, but it's there. And this is would be what a base would look like. I have a couple like transition things here, so this one just kind of pops up and fades in. And then I have this transform thing that basically just pops up and goes down on a curve. Let's see here, and I can just copy this. Basically, if I want to like if I have like an image that I want to add in, I can just like hit copy, go to that image, and I'll just remove the attributes here, hit paste attributes, and bang, we have our transition here. And then I can drag it out to however long I need it to be. Again, I don't know if there's a better way to do this, but I find like this is a pretty quick way since I use this quite often. So this is what I have on my second monitor. What we can start with Watchtower, which is basically just an extension that syncs up your folders automatically. So if I drag an image into that folder, you'll see it immediately pops up. So I have that for my source and my assets folder, as well as all these which you saw previously in my shared assets. Each of them has an individual bin, and everything gets automatically synced into these folders. Other things I have is I just basically have all these bins. These are what I export at the end of the week for the best of and your recap. Can I do like a retrospective at the end of the weekend, kind of figure out, okay, what after a week of content is worth keeping. And then copy pasta, I got this kind of recently. I find this an extremely useful extension. The copy basically just copies the current frame in your sequence to your clipboard, so it's good for thumbnail stuff. And then paste, this lets you copy an image from online and just paste it in here. And one of the major things that is an issue with Premiere, maybe it's not an issue in other editing software, is WebP files do not like get detected or cannot be used in Premiere. So having this extension that will just copy an image directly into your timeline is very useful. So I'll demonstrate that. So for example, there's an image of NL on the subreddit that I want to take. I will just hit copy image, go back to my timeline, and hit paste. And there you go. As for the actual project structure, like I had before, I have this chat thing. So basically what you get when you render out your chat file is you get the chat file, which is just it's just this. Then you have your mask, which is just a Luma, I think it's like a Luma mat, which is, yeah, and you might be wondering why you don't just use like a green screen thing. It just looks worse. It looks, this is like so incredibly clean, to be honest. So, and basically all you need to do, and I think you can recreate this in any editing software, is just this like track mat. You'll look for like Luma mat effect or whatever in your own editing software, and you'll get that. Other things that I'll note is, the mask, I believe, only works if the sequence setting is exactly the same as the file's dimensions. So just keep that in mind. I'll just plop these on top of each other, and I can get to editing. And as you can see here, and I can go over like the syncing stuff. So basically, when I want to do multicams, I will just grab everybody's VODs, and then NL's VOD is the master here. So I will find moments where Justin or Corey speak, and I will sync up their speaking in NL's clip to them speaking in their own VOD, and that's how I get like relatively have everyone relatively synced up, because Discord audio actually has like a pretty massive delay. One last thing I did want to cover is this little transition I have here on the audio. So to make it easier, under timeline here, you can set your audio transition to like a couple frames, like 2 frames I have here, but maybe like 3 or 4 is fine. And I have a shortcut here, like Control Shift D is mine. And basically all it does is makes the transition like a tiny transition here, just to make your audio not so sharp. I don't know if you can even hear the difference here, but
sus.
Just like that little, like just a little knob sound. It was so sharp on my ear for some reason that I just had a way to like slightly reduce it. And there are different. This is like a horrible example, but trust me, there are more examples where sometimes just maybe it's not with a speaker, it's not so obvious, but with headphones on, sometimes some audio comes up like super sharp to me, and I have to add this. Like, also sometimes if there's like a bit where Anna like is breathing in or something between clips, I actually extend the clip just to resolve the breathing, or to like stop the breathing before, but I can't have dead air here, so I have to fill it in with like ambient audio from the game in another section. Because one time in a comment someone was complaining that NL would like breathe between clips, like it would be cut off. I do get a question a lot of the times, like, okay, why is everything like so long? Like, really, the freaking daily recap is like 2 hours long, or the year or like the monthly recap is 11 hours, 12 hours long. Like, why? For me, it really comes down to when I watch content of other streamers, there's always like a thing in the comments of someone saying, I can't believe you cut this, or I can't believe this was included. So to the best of my ability, again, I'm not perfect myself either, I make anything like, I guess, compilation wise, with the mindset of any like minute thing doesn't get left out if I think it's worth keeping in. Which again, that's subjective, but I try to come at it where with as much love as I can to the content. So like, even games that I don't really like, I really will try my best to find something that people can might universally enjoy out of that bit of of the stream. Because again, because I early on would also click off of a stream if I didn't really find a game interesting, but then you miss out on certain bits and things like that. So that's kind of the mindset of why I have these super long compilations. Like, and the people ask, okay, why do some of the like they say they use these as like podcasts, which I mean that's fine, but like they do I do read like complaint comments about, okay, why are you using, well, why did you include like Lethal Company gameplay or something like that in here? Well, because like the point of these is to catch up. Like again, they're like long, they're like very long, because you have to keep in mind, if NL streams for 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's 25 hours in a week. And then, if you take that to a month, which let's say approximately is 4 weeks, that's about 100 hours of content condensed down to 10 hours. I mean, it's not crazy, right? And the point is to be a recap, not just like of someone talking, but some people like the Lethal Company and things like that. And I try to timestamp everything as diligently as I can. The main issue with these like longer ones is that YouTube has 100 chapter limit, which is why they aren't as detailed. But again, there are enough timestamps I feel that you can skip through if it's just like gameplay segments that you don't care about. But again, the point is for it to be a recap, not for you to fall asleep to, which that's fine. But there's gonna be like Lethal Company or headliners or whatever in there that you don't really care about as much. But again, I'm trying to be as universal as I can. So that's just my excuse of why everything is so long. Now on to like how I find like random clips and things like that. To be honest, I watch everything like twice, VOD wise. If I have like a tangential like word, or like I can usually like pull the clip based on the date or something like that, I just use everything. It's a very good like search program for Windows, because Windows search sucks, and I can just like pull a random clip based on a word if I remember it. But if I don't, this site Filmmot lets you search through YouTube transcripts, and it's fairly good. But again, it is YouTube transcript, so if you find something, this would be an easy way to start looking. But the main reason I wanted to make this video is just to introduce this new site called NL Quotes. Some random guy just reached out to me and was like, hey, I can make I made this like site to look for NL quotes. And I was like, oh, and I used it and I was like, oh, this is really good. Like, they were using a model to do the transcripts. This is not YouTube transcripts, these have all been this is a manual. And I was like, oh, I was surprised at how good it was with certain words. And again, it's not perfect, but this can be like your primary or secondary source of finding clips. For example, just as a technical demonstration here, I was able to look up the word tummy ache, and that is just, I mean, I don't know, that I kind of just shows like how good it is, I guess. So there's a bunch of like tips here on how to use the site. We have like a year filter. It's not like perfect, and like the game filter and like the order that we have. These are just the bits and banter videos. You can kind of pinpoint the date based on that if you need to look for an individual clip, and an NL channel here as well. Basically every single video, because the main channel, there are a bunch of videos with no transcript in the first place. So over like the past month, they have the site developer has been pulling and transcribing every single NL video, like every single one. And we're also working on getting all the bootleg NLSS videos transcribed as well. So this would be like a definite, if you're really looking for a clip, you should be able to find it here. And my only contribution to this is like footing the bill on the server hosting and giving like feedback, because I live and breathe looking for clips. So I think for my uses, this is like a perfect website. Maybe not perfect, but close to perfect. And just a couple things, like we have a feedback thing here, and also if you're looking for a clip, like I think this won't work probably. Yeah, if a clip, well, okay, it did work, but if a clip doesn't look right, because it should be like mouse hold like the Pokemon, we have another button here to flag the quote specifically. So this is basically a forever work in progress thing. But you know, if you're looking for something and maybe you find it but not in the exact wording, feel free to leave some feedback and we will manually fix the transcriptions. Oh, and the GitHub is here as well at the bottom. We had a couple contributors, so shout out to them. We have, yeah, so here's the full like GitHub repo, and along with that, along the way, I guess I talked about like this chat thing, and guess what? This we were able to make this other website, which is the chat audit. So usually on Twitch, only the like a mod or like the streamer can look up chat logs and things like that. Like we don't have that functionality, but with like that chat archive that we have have been able to create our own chat audit, which is kind of absurd, kind of scary maybe, but yeah. So we have PTTV integration as well, and a bunch of like random stats that they had here. Again, it's not complete, but this is basically as good as you can get down to like 2016, I believe, which I think is kind of crazy. We can just for fun look into like random chatters here. Here's Faint Bunny being as positive as ever. We have like a search filter function as well, which is pretty cool, which is very useful actually, because I think oldest is an important one, because I don't think mods can even have to like scroll all the way to find the oldest message, but here we have it here. And that's all I have really. Hopefully you found this video helpful in some way. If you have any more questions or I didn't cover something, yeah, feel free to leave me like a comment or something, and I will, again, I do read all the comments, which is probably bad for my mental, but this is my process.